All right, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it has been quite a long, lively day. Now we are coming to almost the very end of today's event. So today it has been a full day, lots of information. We have some people joining us online with their presentation. Some people coming here in the studio and enlightening us with a lot of good presentation of their products and platform. We also have 15 minutes of panel discussion with experts, with speakers and moderator. So it has been quite a lot during today, helping us to recap all the importances of what we have achieved today. Two very important people here with me in the studio, so I would like to hand over the floor to CAFT Board Secretary General, Mr. Tomas Pokorny, and AmCham President, Mr. Anthony Galliano.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks, Anthony, for being here with me today.
It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much for including an older guy like me in your tech world.
No, definitely you have your place here after. You are also veteran in Cambodia of, Cambodian expats living here a long time. Look, today, for me, it's been already, this one is third day of actually quite eventful, fruitful event. We have 2 more days to go after today. And every day we cover incredible amount of topics. Today, for example, we went through ESG, health, trade, agriculture, and of course we always pointed towards digitalization, fintech, finance, how it all blends together and how it's evolving in this industry 4.0. So if you allow me, let me highlight a few topics and discussions from today, and I would want you to help me kind of bring the wider perspective both from Cambodian side as well as international side of what's happening in the same areas. So let's start with our ESG speech this morning, environment, sustainability, governance topic, brought by Carrie Adams-Strump from Prudential. And she was highlighting, for example, that Prudential is managing $250 billion of funds at the moment. And by year 2050, their aim is to have those funds fully carbon neutral. During that topic, of course, because it wasn't just about them, but overall green investments, we highlighted such facts that green bonds are, for example, one of the good, potentially very potential and viable future ways of investments. However, where we struggle, and we discuss this every day on Monday and Tuesday, is lack of data. Lack of data transparency, lack of data access, and we brought up topics such as blockchain perhaps can help long term in these initiatives. Also, what she mentioned was relatively interesting was that China committed, China currently contributes 30% of world carbon emission productions. And by 2030, they committed to be carbon neutral. So all eyes on there. Anthony, from your perspective, these sustainable green investments, as the president of AmCham, what else do we have happening? What else is going on in this sector?
If I could, I just comment perhaps my feelings about the importance of dealing with climate change, which capitalism, I think, has created climate change, and capitalism has to deal with climate change. I think capitalism has to be the solution of climate change because capitalism has become the reason why there is climate change. And it has to start with the corporate world. I think there's been a lot of talk about it, and that's been unfortunate. This is really the survival of the human race. It's that important, and it may not be in.
Are we being dramatic, or is it really down to survival of the human race?
I believe it's down to survival of the human race, and I think it has to be. I'm not Greta, but but I think there's a lot of dramaticism around it, and that I think really scares people more than actually encourages people to. It has to be government led. It has to be led by the corporate world. How digitalization facilitates that will be really important going forward. Carbon credits have been around a long time. There's no doubt about it. It's been around decades, and they really haven't helped to reduce emissions, to be honest. So drastic action is needed, and it really has to come from governments. It has to come from people like me and you as well. Every day, we have to do the little things: plastic reduction, reduce our consumption a bit, I think things like Telsa, have been wonderful. Talking about, technological innovation, Telsa is a great example of electrifying cars. China's directionally moving towards that. But it's really comes down to fossil fuels, and we have to reduce fossil fuels. How digitalization can help that? You all have helped every part of the economic chain. So I'm pretty optimistic that digitalization will help in this capacity as well. Just imagine how you practically do that has to be continued thought.
Okay, wonderful. Actually, you mentioned an interesting point. You said it needs to be government-led, of course, government push, but it's down to us, consumer behavior. We had tons of talk about this yesterday when it comes to data as well and data protection. Always people will play a key role in it. But then you mentioned corporate side, right? Tesla, other companies, that they essentially, especially those multinational conglomerates, and how they're pushing the change in the industry. I was planning to add this one actually more towards the end, but it was our second topic of today's summit. And we had Monica Chom, a Visa representative from Cambodia, and she was talking about great initiatives that Visa as a corporation has towards startups. So not just towards the payment side they do, and hence financial inclusion, but also towards the accelerator efforts, their works with family startups, and all the initiatives to support the industry. During the day, we had also a lot of startups coming here today, startup that's focusing on HR. So it's not just, as we discussed, fintech side, it's very diverse. We had startups that are coming here from agriculture perspective. We had other startups when it comes to waste of food waste management, and so on and so far. From, again, as an AmCham representative, as well as you've been in under company of Cambodia Investment Management here for more than decades now?
13 years.
Oh, 13 years. You've seen probably tons of investment efforts, tons of initiatives that coming to Cambodia and can help long term. We've been always discussing, and this is a hard topic, right? We've been always discussing, is Cambodia focused on China? Is Cambodia focusing on states? I think that every party is playing their role in there, right? What do we see now when it comes to US companies and their support in Cambodia through AmCham efforts as well? What do we have on the scene?
I'd like to talk a little bit about US companies here, and there is a lot of discussion in Cambodia about Chinese investment. That China is 50-60% of foreign direct investment in the country and the largest presence. America has what I would say is an intangible presence here. Intangible presence meaning we have what I call everyday use products that touch Cambodians in different facets every day. And I mentioned things like Facebook, which is hugely popular here.
Yes.
So Facebook may not actually have an office here that says Facebook, like some of the Chinese companies do, but we know that Cambodians are spending most of their day, free time, on Facebook. And so Facebook has a dramatic, huge presence and influence here in Cambodia. We use Google. We have Google Ads, which influence us. We use Google for search. Android being very popular on our phones, which also is following what we're doing and is influencing us as well. But Google doesn't have an office here. Microsoft, we use Outlook, we use various Microsoft products. With Facebook also we have WhatsApp. So we have Netflix, we have Amazon, we have Apple. They may not have offices, they may not have signs here, but they have a massive presence
I like
here.
that word, yeah.
Yes. So that's first, I think it's underestimated how much the U.S. is present here. Not maybe invested, but present. Here. From an AmCham perspective, we're always encouraging more U.S. business here. Our membership is reaching out to companies that may not be here yet. I think Boeing has just joined us, for instance. Boeing has become a member. They don't have an office here, but they want to be part of the market here as the travel market grows here. So that will be quite important.
This one could be a big partnership.
Yes.
For Cambodia overall. That's,
right.
Congratulations.
So we like that people to think about American companies differently, and it's very much along the lines of what's happening here in this summit. It's all digitalization presence rather than physical presence, and now we'd hope to change that and see more banking presence, more insurance presence, but that will come. So the bricks and mortars are not here, but the companies are here, and they're right up your line of digitalization.
Exactly. Thanks, Anthony. It was a great summary. Speaking of digitalization, we also had segment today on health, also brought by Prudential, by Ms. Susan Fanning, Chief Health and Wellbeing Officer at Prudential Time. But why I'm mentioning it here, because before this session, before we went live, we were discussing gender equality and female-male issues and challenges, and essentially it was very hard to catch all the amazing points today, but during her speech there was some points towards only 5% of health budget is being invested towards specifically women health issues. And look, it's two guys here discussing
Cosmetically, that doesn't look good, right?
women presence in Cambodian companies. But overall, when you look at it, there are more males globally than females. But in Cambodia specifically, there is 7.9 million women and 7.6 million men. So we have more women. And yet, most of the companies, digitalization, tech, UX designs, everything is being driven still predominantly by male-led corporations. Health efforts also being driven towards kind of neutral market, right? Never female or males. So it would be interesting to see when we finally start seeing that shift, right? Question would be for me always, are we lacking that female focused, dedicated focus apps, or are we lacking even more balanced one? You know, is it everything towards the guys, or do we have? Are we in gender neutral world already, or are we still, lacking on both sides of that spectrum? And if we are lacking, what are we doing to change it?
Well, first, as two males, let us say with the deepest respect for women, we all had mothers, and that's where we came from. So,
yes.
of course, I think we all recognize the importance of womanhood. I think, look, jokes aside, it's different stages, and there's different variables that you're dealing with. You're dealing with cultural issues first. So I think sometimes issues that we make in the Western world that we try to say, or whether even political, social, that we try to say this is the way the world should be, because we think it's the world should be. Obviously, gender equality is essential and very important, but there's steps of getting there. And I think culturally in Cambodia, we're dealing with a culture that's been primarily a male culture, but it's changing. It's changing pretty rapidly. If you look at women in government and women in business, that's increasing significantly. Mm-hmm. Some key posts have been filled by women in government, and some key posts have been obviously filled in business world. We, as an American Chamber of Commerce, and also the United States Embassy, the United States Embassy and AmCham signed a joint working plan together with Ambassador Murphy, and one of the agenda items was gender equality. So both of us are striving to work there. We have a women's committee, which is led by a woman board member. We're also very conscious that our board needs to be diversified, so we encourage women to run for the board. And there's some really great women on the board, like Kim M. We have as well, Rena Ng. They're fantastic board members. So we have to lead by example.
True.
Very important to lead by example. So we get our women board members engaged in all our activities that we can, and that they're able to do so. We're changing the cosmetics of the board to hopefully. Mm-hmm. I don't personally believe in quotas. I think those things create issues.
Sure.
But encouraging and highlighting the importance of having the diversity is important. And that women's committee is actually probably would be more successful than a male committee. And I'll tell you why. Is because women share their issues as mothers, share their issues as business women that they face in the workplace, share social issues that they're having here. So it's not only a committee to empower women, but to help women share their experiences of what's their challenges and what makes them successful. So it's a start, but it's also puts us on the map to say we do have a specific advocacy committee for women, and we really believe in women equality, and the American Chamber of Commerce promotes it, as does the United States Embassy. And we promote it as we can within the boundaries and framework of what we're permitted to do in the country.
Wonderful, great. Look, you mentioned, I think you didn't say it in those words, but I used those words because Boran Kea, CEO of AMK and chairman of Microfinance Association, mentioned it during his panel. We need to take baby steps. He mentioned it into different context, but essentially towards the gender equalization as well, right? We need to take baby steps in order to reach there.
I think I would just like to emphasize it's also it's culture as well. You have to progressively advance the culture. And I use the word advance because we're not looking to change. I think it's advancing the culture where we're giving equality to women, not changing the culture. And also it has to be by example. I think American companies, the practices that we use in the United States are being transformed here. So we have certain practices of respect in the workplace, sexual harassment, these types of really important things to protect women and also to accelerate women in positions. Those companies are practicing the same practices they have in the United States, they're practicing here. So that's leading by example.
Yeah. Just a side note, for example, CAFT, we have our executive director is woman as well. So I think that more and more, even tech and fintech organizations and associations heading towards that gender equalization. Why I was mentioning the baby steps element is also towards digitalization. It came into discussion with digitalization of agriculture, for example, right, and the trade overall. And it came to the point of almost everybody was talking and agreeing on that panel. That was joined by Agri CEO Mr. Pak, Boran, as I mentioned, CEO of AMK, Tira Tong was there, so finally some lady, Salt Farmer Association and Young Entrepreneurs Association, I think, as well represented there. Everybody was saying digitalization is great and it will happen. It's leading to better competitiveness, better commercialization, because farmers are able to reach out, and not being just within their community, but reach out to wider Cambodian as well as international community. But if we just give them applications now, without teaching them towards this, without providing digital literacy and access, it will not lead anywhere. So similar to the gender equality, taking baby steps, we need to take baby steps also on the digitalization. It won't happen overnight. And then it comes to social responsibility and consumer behavior, leading by examples. How we, as a, let's say, more developed cities and more developed part of the country, help those rural areas and provinces in digitalization of the agriculture, digitalization of trade, and finance in those verticals. Anthony, do you have any from being American, if I can, you are U.S. citizen, right? Now we are more Cambodian probably than American, but seeing those in both segments in states, and U.S. actually is having a couple of states. They are really farmers and agriculture-based states, right? Do we have any plans or anything how we support this agriculture on an international segment? How bring the international expertise to Cambodia and elevate, transform it.
I think it's fair to say that we're living in a rural community, country, where 78% of the population is involved in outside cities. We haven't had that migration into the cities, so it's still very much agricultural country.
What was the percentage?
75 to 78%. Okay. So it's huge. It's absolutely huge. You still have most of the population sustaining themselves out
in rural areas.
In rural areas, yeah. That's gone down slightly. It was much higher 5 or 6 years ago. It's down about 5 percentage points, but still 75% of the population involved in farming or agriculture outside or related to is very high. Farmers don't get a fair shake here normally, so it's a lot of brokers that are part of the distribution system. A lot of the agriculture here gets exported, and we're still using ourselves, even though we have a high percentage of people in farming, we're still actually importing a lot of vegetables and foods and fish from other countries. So it's a little complex problem. I think the government recognizes it as well. And it really is getting rid of the intermediaries and setting up the infrastructure and the ability to refine, for instance, even just refining rice, for instance, and not having rice mills, and just being able to have the product reach the distribution points to market here would be great. Digitalization is the direction. And I actually don't underestimate how digitalization can be used here. If we kind of look at, go out to the provinces, you'll see everybody has a smartphone and is using it to watch videos or entertain themselves, so they're quite proficient in using phones.
I think that I don't know who was it on the panel, mentioned that 60% of farmers are less than 45 years of age. Hence, relatively easier way to the adoption towards the technology, I assume.
And I think part of it is we have to get to 5G. That's going to help eventually,
so
hopefully.
The lack of infrastructure is still there, right?
Lack of infrastructure is still there. And digitalization will help the chain of getting from harvest to distribution points to milling or whatever is necessary. Mm-hmm. You see it a lot in India, by the way. India has a very similar issue. Where you have farmers in India, again, having these intermediaries or brokers taking a lot of the cut of the profits, and a lot of startups. India copies a lot of what the U.S. does. There's no doubt about it. If you're in the corporate finance business, you realize that a lot of stuff that went on in Silicon Valley is just replicated in India, and they're very good at it. And I've seen a lot of investment requests from India on actually the agriculture area, of just having farmers be able to, not only for trading, but for transportation. Because transportation also is a big issue.
Logistic infrastructure is
all that.
absolutely.
So it's very important, very important. I think for the future of these 75% of the people, to actually make a living and to actually reap the gains of what they're actually doing, rather than having other intermediaries or end brokers do it.
Definitely. I think it comes down also probably almost towards the concluding thought is towards why is that issue there, right? Because many people saying it's because of transparency and literacy as well. Farmers don't have access to the data. They don't know if they're selling it on price, under price, overprice. They have no ways how to check it, right? And lately, because National Bank, Project Blockchain, right? Tons of other international projects blockchain based. In Cambodia, we have BlockRice. It's initiatives by Oxfam, international of more than 20, I think, charitable organizations, right, towards fighting poverty around the globe. Blockchain-based application that aims to bring the transparency into pricing, into the process of the how products are being produced, how they're being made into final produce, how they're being exported, what are the pricing, how to improve the farming and agriculture by use of new technologies, how to link with other commercial entities, right? I think that if blockchain is always associated to the financial side, right? If blockchain is really going to help with something, and we will see it very tangibly, it is exactly in industries like agriculture, where people would automatically assume, it doesn't need anything. But it comes down to data. It needs transparency. It needs accessibility, and perhaps this is the one of the use. How technology can help wider population, not just bankers.
There's a lot of positive things digitalization can do to cut out the middlemen, and I think that's what digitalization can bring here. We have an old way of doing business. These farmers are used to going to a certain buying points. Those buying points make a good deal of the margin. Those buying points then further distribute. If digitalization gets past that, and there is markets that digitalization can facilitate and logistics that digitalization can facilitate, then it will enrich those farmers' lives, for sure. So we're depending upon you and everybody that's in the fintech world to really get, it really comes out, cutting it, the old way of doing things and creating a new way, creating new markets for them.
I think overall fintech is ready. It's just, but one thing that we don't do well yet is that we still are stuck with fintech as a payment. But we and population and public needs to realize fintech is essentially really tapping everywhere. So as long as we embrace that, and start helping all, that's why we did this CamTech Summit, right? Is to showcase fintech is not just in the banking, it's just not just in microfinance, but we tapping into every other elements of economic chain.
And I think logistics is a very important area for digitalization, just as much as payments, is assisting in the logistics of from source to market to end consumer is very important.
Agree.
So, yes.
Anthony, thank you for being here. Any final concluding thought of today? Feel free.
The time went very fast, so thank you. I would just say, I'd like to congratulate you on a fantastic summit here. We learned a lot. You had fantastic speakers. Cambodia is on the map as part of a bigger festival.
That's one of the aims, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody involved for, again, fantastic work and great job.
It's all thanks to DJ Nana, and DJ Nana, thank you for having us again, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you both gentlemen for the wrap up. It was actually not just a wrap up, it's almost like independent session itself. I like the last comment though. It's not just money app. It's more than that. I mean, that was the expression I get too when I first asked to host like fintechs. Okay. But then when you're actually here, there's a lot more to talk about.
By Friday, we will convince everybody fintech is more than just payments.
That is true. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes for today's event. Thank you very much for joining us in the morning. And again, this is only the third day. We still have 2 more days to come, so please come back also tomorrow. Now, during today's session, we already have learned a lot, and the 2 gentlemen have just kindly recap and also give some key away already. So last but not least, I would like to acknowledge the organizer of the events. Thank you very much, our main partner, Prudential, and organized by National Bank of Cambodia, Cambodian Association of Fintech and Technology, the Association of Banks in Cambodia, Cambodia Microfinance Association. Microfinance serve people always. Thanks to our silver sponsor, Khmer Enterprise, Inspire, Connect, Transform. AMK Finance at your doorstep. Philip Bank, a member of Philip Capital Group Singapore. Prince Bank, we try harder for you, and Visa, everywhere you want to be. Thank you very much also to our bronze sponsor, Esilida Bank, the bank you can trust, the bank for the people. Credit Bureau Cambodia, CBC, e-money, easy and safe. Chase Trust Royal Bank, simply better service. PPC Bank, easy banking. And True Money, a leading fintech company in Southeast Asia. Also Wing, the bank for every Cambodian. Also, we would like to acknowledge our media partner for this event, Cambodia Investment Review, Fresh New, Khmer Time, Your Opinion Matters, PR Newswire, we tell your story to the world, and Sabai, happiness live here. Finally, thanks to our content partner, Bakong, the next generation mobile payment and banking, DQD, we deliver, we distinguish, we drive ahead, we are the Diversitas, iPay88, and WSource. That's it for today. We have just concluded 3 days of an amazing event. Hopefully see you tomorrow as well. We start at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thank you very much, and please have a good evening. Goodbye.